Hello, my name's Lesley Atherton, and this is my short story called Second Chances. I genuinely don't think I've ever been inside a taxi or any other vehicle that smells as bad as this one. This fetid green Astra must be at least 20 years old, and it shows. The odour has a little of the crypt about it, elastic with mould and dire with terminal discomfort. Surely there must have been a recent death on this back seat. If someone hasn't just died in here, there's no other explanation for the stench, the intimidating atmosphere and the cold. We must be almost there now. I checked the street signs and I'm shocked into forgetting the smell just for a moment. Coniston Avenue. We just turned into Coniston Avenue. Tree-lined, wide and suburban, just as an avenue should be. And yes, now I think about it, only streets away from Ballantyne's, the suburb's newest eatery. I'm on my way there for the first time, but it hadn't even crossed my mind that the taxi would bring me down this road. Coniston Avenue was where Nigel, my first boyfriend, had lived. As teens together, we weren't an ideal match. He was posh and I was not. His house was huge too. It was 1970s bland, but incomprehensibly large, with a semicircular driveway and iron railings framing it and protecting it from the world. Oh yes, he really was posh. We were worlds apart, really, as he attended the fee-paying grammar and I was happy at the local comprehensive. I wondered, not for the first time, what Nigel was up to now. I know we all grow up and move on, but it's true that you never really forget your first love. I can still remember his curly dark hair, apple-scented and out of control, his broken-looking Roman nose and his tight muscular body, created from a strict discipline of fell running, light weightlifting and heavy, brutal hockey. See what I mean? He was posh. At our school, only the girls played hockey, and even that was under duress. The taxi slowed down, then pulled up at the curb without warning, though we were a good 5 minutes from my business lunch at Ballantyne's. "I'm sorry," I started. "This isn't—" "I know," the driver said. "Sorry, I'm not feeling—" His skin, dark as stained oak pews, was wet with perspiration. "Oh, just a minute." And with that, the driver, Alan, according to his taxi driver ID, fell forward onto the steering wheel and was still. I scrambled into the passenger seat, checking his pulse and breathing, then scrabbled around for my mobile. Thank God he was breathing. I loosened his tie, talking to him all the way. "Come on, Alan, keep healthy for me. Keep healthy for me." 999, ambulance. Fortunately, we were just around the corner from the ambulance station, so someone would get to us within seconds. They said to sit, wait and keep calm. It was only as the conversation ended that I realised we were outside number 55 Coniston Avenue, and that was Nigel's house. I can still see the tears in Nigel's eyes as we broke up. It had been his decision, but had been made only because of our respective university places and the huge geographical distances between us, me being at Southampton and he at Aberdeen. I still could see his face, pale, white and heartbroken, and my face too was pallid from shock and hurt, especially as I thought we'd always be together. Within 30 seconds the ambulance arrived. The medics found me tearful and drained, mistakenly assuming it was all due to Alan's condition, but it wasn't. I was concerned for him, of course, but I didn't know this man. I cared, but I wasn't emotionally involved, if you know what I mean. I was pretty sure that Alan would be fine. I had faith in the ambulance service, in the NHS, and in the body's ability to recover from illness, even from serious ones, but I didn't have faith in me. I quite simply couldn't cope with being this close to Nigel's house. I remembered the smell of our commingled teenage hormones and felt the sense of excitement that life was still unfolding to gift us with amazing opportunities. Looking across to number 55 as the medics examined Alan, I could almost see his mum on the doorstep, her face older than 10 years ago. In fact, I could see her there. Maria was on the doorstep. I stepped out of the car and she walked over to me, at first just curious about the ambulance, but then as she neared me and realised who I was, the hugs began. "Hayley, it is you!" And as the ambulance zoomed off, I told her everything about Alan and was shocked by how easily we slotted back into being friends. "I wish you'd stayed with Nigel. Let's just say he's not always made the best choices since you and he broke up." She invited me to walk with her towards the house. "Not my decision. How is he?" "Oh, he's fine," she said. and with a mischievous smile, "He's just cleaning out the gutters, actually, up that ladder. We get him to do little jobs for us every time he's here. Normally he relishes them, but not today. I think he's a little hungry. He comes for lunch once a week every week, like clockwork." That sounds like Nigel. I laughed nervously, remembering how we used to see each other unchangingly on Mondays, Wednesdays and Sundays. His love of methodical routine had then been a point of teasing affection between us, as had been my life more typically drenched in eccentric and complicated adolescent chaos. "May I come and say a little hello?" I asked. I made a phone call first. Redstone taxis were informed where Alan was and where his cab was. I told them I had locked the car and would hand the keys over to whoever they sent for collection. I cleared my throat. I was ready to see Nigel again. I smoothed down my clothes and fluffed up my hair. My hand reached up and pulled down a cluster of lilac flowers to smell. Delicious. It didn't feel as though 10 years had passed since I last smelled that lilac. The tree had grown well. Nigel and I had planted it for his parents' anniversary, then ate cheese on toasted crumpets afterwards, and our unwashed hands fed each other. With soil on our lips, we giggled inanely when hot, melted dairy fat dripped and burnt our chins. "Yummy," he'd said, gnashing his teeth against grit. "Yummy," I'd said, as my limbs ached with exertion and ached for him. I arrived at the door, as nervous as a little girl, and there he was. He had the same hair, the same nose, and the same tightly muscled body that had made me go weak at the knees. He also had the same crooked, toothy smile. "Well, well, it's Halley's Comet." "Halley's," I corrected. A standing joke, remembered. "God, I haven't seen you since—" I completed his sentence, "since you chucked me." Harsh but true. "Yeah," he said, embarrassed now. "Since I chucked you. Sorry." "So, how was Aberdeen?" I asked. "Okay," he said. "How was Southampton?" "Okay-ish." "You married?" Nigel asked, looking at my naked fingers. I remembered him as a teenager, sensitive, artistic, creative and thoughtful, and that couldn't be further removed from my last boyfriend, who is Neanderthal in type with flared nostrils and powerful jaws. A good height and strong as an ox, but I wasn't lethargic in terminating that relationship. I don't think I'd ever truly loved a man before or since Nigel, except in a dream once or twice. Perhaps it was a weakness of mine, but I'd grown to believe that falling in love was a nonsense of the kind that languid film star beauties espouse on television, accessorised with champagne, chocolates and ethereal beauties posing on chaise longue. Love and marriage weren't for me. Even friends seemed to me an extension of the real stuff of life, work, work and more work. But even so, I felt a tremor through my body, as if I were electrocuted, and I said, "No, I'm not married. Single. You?" He shook his head. "Single, but looking, as they say." "Thanks, Alan, for your great sense of timing," I thought, as I linked Nigel's arm and entered the building. This had potential to be interesting. I was right, because within 5 minutes I had left the house. Nigel's childish charm had worked on me in younger days, but now came across only as irritating sleaziness. I was single through choice, but surely he must be single through personality. I'd apologised to Maria and left Nigel to his weekly point scoring and teenage moods. Not much had changed. God, I wished I hadn't been coerced into giving Maria my mobile number. She was sure to pass it to him before I'd even got to the end of the avenue. Ah well, these things happen, I thought as I walked down the driveway and onto Coniston Avenue. The walk would probably do me good. Taking my phone from my jacket pocket, I deleted unread the inevitable instant text from Nigel. Instead, I opened my contacts folder and rang Ballantyne's. I would be late, I told them, as I had been involved in a medical emergency, but was now on my way, on foot. I placed my order over the phone. The fun was about to begin. You see, old boyfriends are all very well, but for an afternoon's adrenaline rush, nothing quite compares to a fine business lunch in the presence of fine business contacts who are about to make you a fortune, if I played it right. I've never been one for nostalgia or looking back. I'd never hang around to regret what might have been. Halley's Comet, Nigel called me. It was near to the truth, I thought. Give it another 75 years and I might just about be ready to see him again. Meanwhile, onwards and upwards, onwards and upwards. The food at Ballantyne's was said to be wonderful, and all this excitement had given me a raging appetite.